there, welcome to another episode of Galaxy Gardens. My name is Chrissy, and today I want you to join me while we try to make some maple syrup. We have 5 trees in our yard. We have 4 big maples and 1 smaller maple. They have never been tapped before, as far as we can tell. And the previous owners of this property were here for quite a long time. They actually didn't do that much with the property. It was more storage for them. So I think this is the first time the trees have been tapped. We've been collecting sap from them for about a week. I think we have about like 20 to 22 gallons so far, which is pretty cool. We're gonna be tapping them for the remainder of the season, which should be several more weeks moving forward. However, I don't want it to spoil. Apparently it can. So I want to process it as we go. Today, that's my goal, is to process everything we have. Hopefully we get some syrup and decent quality syrup. We've never made it before, so we're gonna see how it goes. And we're gonna do it inside. We're gonna be boiling it on our range inside. We actually used to have a big 50-gallon pot and a propane burner outside from when Greg, first started home brewing. If you've seen our brewing videos, you can see he's like clearly upgraded his equipment since then, so we actually sold those off. I was considering buying them back for this process, but it's such a brief period of the year we would use it, and I don't really know what else we would even use it for. So we're gonna see how it goes, just processing everything inside. And if it's like a huge pain, then we'll probably invest in getting that equipment again for next year. But I'm really excited for this process. This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. And I was talking to Greg and I'm just like, oh man, it'd be really cool to have the supplies for that. Like, I wonder how hard it is. Apparently it's really easy. I found that out. So now we just need to do the processing side of it. So let's go check it out and hopefully we get some syrup today. This is a moment for me to just acknowledge, do as we say, not as we do. And let me tell you why. Listen, I know there's fiberglass insulation right there. And these are not food grade totes. However, we didn't actually realize how fast the sap was gonna come in. So we had to get these ready in a hurry. Don't do this at home. Please use food grade supplies. Anyway, so this is where we're storing our sap that we did not prepare for. But it looks good. It's actually pretty good quality. It's very clear. And yes, the insides of these are very clean. And we have a ton of it. So we're gonna go bring it inside and see how much we can get through today. Okay, so the light in my garage decided to turn off even though it's turned on. That's a whole different issue we're dealing with. This is a clean wok. I actually don't have any other clean receptacles at the moment, so I'm just gonna use this. Kind of scoop it all out and put it in our pot. Oh, goodness. I was really getting more DIY than this, huh? So the pot I have, I want to say it's, I don't know. It's at least 2 to 4 gallons. I think it's 4 gallons is what Greg told me. Yeah, fill it up. I gotta put my wok somewhere. Bring it back inside. So, our pot filled. I did spill some, my bad. Oh, thank you, garage. Turn the light back on. Anyways, we're gonna bring this in and start bringing it up to a boil. I'm not gonna worry about filtering anything out until after we get to the syrup stage because we have filters for that, but let's bring it in. Oh man, we gotta get this wiring fixed in here. All right, let's go inside. You can see here we have 2 pots going. I actually just put this one on right now. It's just doing some dishes. You can hear our dishwasher in the background. But this is a very easy process. You pretty much just put them in your pots and we're gonna boil them. And you're actually gonna treat this kind of like when you're making candy where you're not gonna be stirring anything. It'd be helpful if you had a candy thermometer for this. We actually don't, we have a regular thermometer, but we won't need it for a little while. What's gonna happen is we're gonna boil these down and add more sap as we go. And the only thing you really need to do is just make sure nothing boils over. Of course, it's gonna be like a sugary solution that's never fun to clean up. But the only thing other than that you have to look out for is some foam developing on the top periodically as you go. That foam, you don't want it. It's kind of like when you're making stock and you get foam on the top. That's just impurities you want to get rid of. So we're just going to scoop that out and get rid of it as we go along. And the sap is very good quality. It's like crystal clear, so I think this is going to be some good quality maple syrup when we're done. And what I'm gonna do, that I'd like to show you, we actually have a Brix refractometer on hand that we use for brewing, and that's gonna help us test for sugar content in our syrup. Right now, you don't really need to do it right now, but it'll be helpful down the line to see, how close we're getting, our sap to becoming maple syrup. And I think that's pretty cool. So let's go and grab our refractometer and I'll tell you a little bit about that, as well as what you're looking for when your syrup's done. This, don't really need to pay attention to it other than those 2 things that I mentioned. So we're just gonna let this boil all day. It's gonna take many hours. I think it's about an hour of evaporation time once it's boiling per gallon that you have. So we'll see how long that takes. And otherwise, kind of frees up the rest of my day. So that's pretty cool. So I brought some sap in so we can warm it up a little bit. So when we add it to our boiling sap on the stove, there's, less downtime. I wanted to talk a little bit about our Brix refractometer. This is pretty cool, very easy to use. We use this in brewing all the time to determine the gravity of the beer. And it's really easy to use. So you can see this area up here. There's a blue plate. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna be putting just a little bit of liquid on there, closing it, and then you're gonna hold it up to a light and look in through right there. And what you're gonna see is your Brix rating. And your Brix rating is how much sucrose is in your aqueous solution. So the way this reads it is 1 degree Brix is the equivalent of 1 gram of sucrose and 100 grams of an aqueous solution. So when you're thinking of our raw sap, not processed, understandably, your Brix rating is gonna be lower. You don't have to test it at this point. I just wanna do it because we do that with beer all the time, and I think it's pretty interesting to see how the sugar content changes. So I expect this to be really low right now. And then later on in the process, as we get closer to temp and to the sugar content we want, we can actually use this to check it. So ideally you want 67 degree Brix syrup. That is standard for syrup, and something like this is helpful to use when you're making it at home. If you go above that, when your syrup cools, you might get some crystallization in it, which is not ideal. Nobody likes crunchy maple syrup when you're not expecting it. And if it's below 67 degree Brix, then there's actually not enough sugar in it to act as preservative, so you might end up with moldy syrup, which you don't want. And of course, the more you cook it down, the darker the color gets. The less you cook it down, the lighter the color is, as well as it'll have, a more liquidy consistency as you get with the syrup here. So we're gonna test this out, and then I wanna talk to you a little bit about the temperature you wanna get your syrup to. That'll let you know it's pretty much done. Okay, so we're just gonna get a little bit of liquid. I really don't need that much. Get it right on there. Perfect. A little bit too much, that's okay. All right, let's go try this out. I have some better lighting in here, so we just went into the different room. We have our liquid on here, so let's check it out, what we have. All right, this is just from our raw maple syrup. We have a 3-degree Brix rating. The sugar content is very, very low, but it's a good starting point. So as we boil everything down, we'll get it to where we want it to be. It's pretty nice out, so I thought we could go sit on the porch. When you're making maple syrup at home, another thing that you can do that'll let you know it's done, of course, you know, not everyone has a refractometer in their house. They're very cheap though. I think we got ours for under 20 bucks. And we use it, you know, for beer all the time. But if you don't have that, it's also recommended to just check the temperature of your syrup. So syrup boils at a higher temperature than water does. Water boils at 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and syrup boils at 219. So as you're checking your temperature of your syrup, as you know, as you go, as it cooks down, once you get to 219 degrees Fahrenheit, that's a good chance that you're done. And you can just take it off, start filtering it, put it in your jars. We'll get to that later. But if you can't test your sugar content, which really doesn't super make sense if you're just doing a backyard operation because it's such a small quantity and you know you're probably not selling it, just go by temperature. 219 degrees and you'll be done. And as you make more syrup down the line, you'll get a better idea of, you know, the consistency you like and how it stores. That's a really good starting point. Back inside, just coming to get a second round of foam out of here. I was actually worried the first time, let's see, get some more liquid out. Oh, come on, there we go. There's the foam, get rid of that. I was actually worried when we collected our sap initially because we poured it into our containers, which you saw in our previous video. And I was like, oh my goodness, did I not get all the soap out when I washed these? And turns out sap is just foamy. I had like more than triple rinsed the containers after I washed them. So, oh, look at all that. It's okay. Oh, foam. Anyways, sap is a little foamy, so if you're doing this at home and you see it foam up when you're transferring it between containers, like, it's okay. It's just gonna happen. But these have some pretty good boils going, which is very cool. And I'm kind of proud of our maple trees, honestly. For never being tapped before, they're doing great. And yeah, so now it's just a waiting game. So I'm gonna go do some other stuff. We'll come back in a little bit when it's time to add some more sap to these, and I'll show you what everything looks like. We're back. It's been about another hour since we last checked and showed you where everything's at. Our smaller pot has reduced by about half, and our larger pot is chugging along. We've only lost a few inches there. So we're gonna add some more. I have a clean jar here. We're just gonna add some more from our bucket. And there hasn't been a significant change in color in this smaller pot. It's looking a little bit more yellow, like a very slight tinge of yellow to that. Of course, this new liquid is going to bring the temperature back down. So we're just going to start that process all over again. I've only had to skim foam off of this maybe like 2 more times in the last hour. Like I said, it's a pretty involved process. Doesn't move very fast, but there's some things that you need to look out for. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some more liquid to both of these pots. between these two pots, this is about 5 gallons, plus another 5 from here. So realistically, maybe we'll go through like 10 gallons today. We'll see how fast everything decides to go. And there's about 3 more left in the bucket now. You can see the slight color change and the liquid in this one. Even as I added more clear sap to it, the liquid that was in here started to get that chemical reaction going that gives maple syrup its color. So these are just gonna come back up to boiling. You can see this has changed a little bit as well. It's gone a little bit cloudier as the majority of that liquid is heating up. So we're just gonna keep doing this over the next several hours. I would like to get through the remaining 3 gallons and then, you know, just be in it to win it for the night and process this. So already a good start. We'll check back in later. I'm back with a check-in for you. It's about 6:30 at night now. I added in the last of the sap from our bucket about half an hour ago, so you can see it's cooking down pretty good. We went through about 10 gallons today, so not a bad start, especially since we don't have, you know, like a Sugar Shack operation that's running 24 hours a day. I thought it'd be neat to check in and see what our current Brix rating is, because there's more unprocessed sap in the bigger pot. I'm actually going to go with the smaller pot. There's a pretty significant color change going on, and I'll zoom in on that in a second. All right. So, if you remember, we started at a 3-degree Brix rating. Perfect. Let's look at this. All right, according to this, we are now at a 13-degree Brix rating, which is awesome. And that's just with having added more sap in here, and it's reducing and adding and reducing. So the rest of this, we're gonna let go for the next few hours. Gonna hope it wraps up around 9, latest 10. It's boiling off pretty fast, so it should be good. This is a very involved process, so if you're ever thinking of tapping your trees in your yard, just know you do need to take time to go through and let it boil off. Here's a close-up too about how our sap is looking. This one is noticeably darker, but because this pan's shallower, you get a better idea of what the color is right now. So we do have a deeper gold than we had earlier, and this is going to condense. Once this pot goes down a bit more, actually probably going to add it to this one, and then we'll finish everything up in here. Since our stove is preoccupied, I actually tried boiling eggs in the air fryer because my friend told me it works, and most of them came out okay. I had one sort of explode, but it really wasn't that bad. So it works. Well, the recipe I used said 9 minutes at 270 for soft boiled. I wouldn't count that soft boiled, but they're cooked. So easy substitute. We're down to 1 pot, and I think it's time to start thinking about checking the temperature. It's almost 8:15 at night. This has been an all-day project. This is a great thing to do if you have nothing to do on the weekend. But let's check it out. This would be easier to do with a candy thermometer, but we don't have one on hand. Okay, 213 degrees Fahrenheit. That's great. So we're officially approaching syrup territory. We're above 212 degrees, which is the temperature that water boils, but we are still under that point we want to get to, that 219 degrees Fahrenheit. Don't know how much longer this is going to take, but we're on the right track. And I think it might be time to do another Brix reading. I did the Brix reading and we're at 14 degrees right now, and I actually realized something. Our refractometer only goes up to 30 Brix, and that's because we got it for the purpose of brewing. So unfortunately, once our syrup's done, we won't be able to give you the full reading there. But I'm gonna go and I'm gonna see if I can get one that does a higher reading for next year. And we'll see how that goes. For now, when we finish today, we'll just do it dependent on what the thermometer says, and that'll be fine for us. It's currently 9:31 at night, and I just checked the temperature, and we are currently at 216 degrees. It's gone up 2 degrees in the last half hour. So, let's see if I can get some of that steam out of the way. There we go. So, hopefully, by 10 o'clock, we'll have it where we want to be. Look at that color, though. It's starting to come out really well. I'm hoping, because this is our first run, that we can fill up these 4 jars. At least the 3 small ones. That's my plan. At least the 3 small ones, and then maybe half of the big one. It looks like we got quite a bit in here, so we'll see. I think there's definitely at least 2 quart jars worth in there right now. Of course, that's going to go down some more before we take it out. So we'll come back when it's ready to siphon. Oh, but we're not going to siphon it though. We're going to be filtering it and then putting it in jars. So filtering it. We'll be back soon. All right. I think this might be it. Oh, there you go. 219 degrees Fahrenheit. Perfect. So, we're going to turn this off, and we're going to move it over to this filtering area. It's ready to go. Spin it around so you don't get as much of the foam residue in there. I'm going to just pour it. All done. Now, if you're doing this at home, be very careful. More so with the steam, but also this is very hot syrup. Just gonna take this filter, which I rinsed out several times just with some very hot water. And we're just gonna pick it up. There you go. I'm not gonna wring this out, obviously, this is incredibly hot, but we're just gonna hold on to this for a minute. Our syrup has a great color to it. I did a taste test, it tastes great. We started this process around 11 a.m. I don't think I actually got anything on the stove till like 11:45. And it's now 10:10 at night. You can do the math on that. It's like 10.5 hours between start to this point. And we can reuse this filter also when we're done with this. This is gonna get the rest of, I think it's called sugar salts, nitrate, out, that we don't want in our final product. We did use this pan earlier and I cleaned it out, rinsed it out a few times. So this is the container we're gonna use to divvy up our syrup into our jars. And then we'll flip the jars over and set them aside to cool. So when this is done, I'll put them in the jars and I'll show you what it looks like when I have them cooling. These jars are sterilized, and from what I understand, you don't need to pressure can or boil, water bath boil your syrup. You're just gonna hot pack them. As long as the syrup itself is at least 190 degrees, it will seal. All of these jars have been sterilized. Just gonna flip that upside down. I'm gonna give them about 1/2 inch headspace, hopefully that's good enough. We'll see. If for whatever reason these don't seal, we'll just put them in the fridge. Quite a nice color to it though. Okay, let's put this to the side. That'll do it. Here's our final product. You can see it's a gorgeous amber color. And I could probably have given them a little bit of a tighter headspace, but you know, I just referred to our kit. It said just flip them over for 5 minutes and then flip them right side up after those 5 minutes are done, and let them seal over the next 12 hours. You can see that one in the back right's not filled up quite as much. I'm just gonna leave it out till it cools down, but I'll probably just throw that one in the fridge. And tomorrow I'll check the seals on the rest of these and see how they do. Thanks for joining me today while we made our very first batch of maple syrup ever from trees that have never been tapped before. I tried some already and it tastes fantastic. And it does have a good syrup consistency. There's actually some, just a little tiny bit left in the pot that's cooled down, and it's that perfect like syrup consistency that you want. And these jars, we're gonna leave them overnight, and that way we'll know which ones can go into storage, which ones need to get eaten right away. We have a lot more syrup on the way. We do. We have, I just consolidated all of it. We have about 20 gallons of sap in the garage right at this moment, as well as sap that we haven't collected from our buckets yet this weekend. There's probably at least another like 5 to 10 gallons just on the trees. And tonight, our night I think is gonna be at around the mid-20s, and tomorrow it's gonna get up close to 50. So I expect another flow to go through. Although we weren't able to use our refractometer to check the final Brix rating for the syrup, that's okay. We got to the temperature point that we wanted to, that 219 degrees Fahrenheit. And I also tried another method, which I didn't mention earlier, which is a spoon test. It's exactly what it sounds like. So you put your spoon in, right? You get a little bit of the liquid and you dump it out. And based on what you see, that lets you know if it's gonna give you that syrupy consistency that you want. So if you're dumping it out and you're getting little droplets of liquid coming off like one at a time. Probably needs to cook down a little bit more. If it's coming out in a whole stream that's, you know, cohesive all together, or you see it come down in like a pane off the spoon, that's where you want it. We had that stream coming off the spoon. We were at the temperature we wanted. It tasted really good. Obviously let it cool down before I tried it, and it had a really beautiful amber color to it. Those are all signifiers that it was ready to go. So this is our first round. Came out great. I couldn't have asked for anything better other than a refractometer with a higher Brix limit than 30. That's okay. Couldn't have predicted that. Probably should have checked it before today, but that's okay. So we're gonna enjoy this syrup and just move forward. We'll have some more projects for you along the way, but otherwise, I appreciate you being here. And if you want to check us out on other social media stuff, check out the link tree in the description. And if you're new here and you want to see some more of our stuff, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications so you know when our next video is posted. Bye.